Good morning and welcome everyone. Um, in the last few months, we lost a really important member of the Boston poetry community, Danielle Legros Georges, who was the second Boston poet laureate, um, and um, and a really vital presence in the literary and educational uh, community. Um, and I wanted to do something that would in some ways pay tribute to her. Um, we knew each other for many years, and most recently we were board members uh, for the New England Poetry Club and shared those obligations and agreed about lots of things and disagreed about some things, and it was wonderful to be working with her. And I had no idea that she had actually been ill. She didn't show any sign of it or let on that she was ill. So we also have today uh, Danielle's partner, Tom Laughlin, is joining us, and Danielle's brother, Gerard, is also joining us. And thank you so much. And and Martha Collins, who was one of Danielle's very close, maybe closest among her closest friends. And you all know Martha because she has been on the her poem has been one of the poems that we've talked about. So good to see you back, Martha. Um, so um, uh, I'm going to I'm going to read. We're going to do two poems of Danielle's, um, which you should have received, and I'll start by reading them both, and and then and tell you a little something about them, and then we can talk about them. Um, um, Poem for the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. O poorest country, this is not your name. You should be called Beacon. You should be called Flame, Almond and Bougainvillea, Garden and Green Mountain, Villa and Hut, Girl with red ribbons in her hair, books under her arm, charmed by the light of morning, charcoal seller in black skirt, encircled by dead trees. You, country, are merchant woman and eager clerk, grandfather at the gate, at the crossroads with the flashlight, with all in sight. And let me read the other poem. Very timely, seems to me. Instructions in times of emergency. Turn the radio low, but listen. A slow rustle, a dictator. Do not turn, though some turn, against a neighbor. Do not look a beached and bloated body in its face. Do not plead to God. Witness the executions. Your human self, keep it alive. a type of flame, your lizard self, your toughest skin, wear it. Shut your door against the night. Keep your door shut against the creeping night. Um, I want to say something that I've only just discovered a couple of days ago about the first poem that I read, and it's a poem that I have that I've really loved, and and I discovered um, from hearing from both Tom and Martha that this this version of the poem was not Danielle's last version of the poem. And I I could have sent you her latest version, her most final version, and I didn't because this is the version of the poem that I fell in love with. And maybe we can talk about some of the changes that Danielle made later, but I thought let's let's talk about this version, which is the version that's online and that's most um, publicly accessible. The other version is in one of Danielle's books. Um, what do you what do you think when you are confronted with a title that says Poem for the Poorest Country in the Western Hemisphere?
Well,
Nick, yeah.
yeah, that I think this was written after the terrible earthquake or about the terrible earthquake of 2010, and I think that perhaps reports of that were always said reported that the earthquake took place in Haiti, the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, and she was rebelling against it being so labeled and saying, she repeats it, this
Mm-hmm.
is not your name, and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
You should be called, these are the real realities. She's
Mm-hmm.
rallying the country uh, in
Mm-hmm.
response to that terrible catastrophe, it seemed to me.
Yeah. Denise, thank you.
It's a title that conveys exquisite tenderness, I think.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
It's a poem that conveys exquisite tenderness. A title. Was I audible?
I think not entirely. I heard exquisite tenderness, and I completely agree with you about that. I didn't quite hear what came after that.
Well, that was it. It's what the title conveys to
Yeah.
me.
Uh-huh. Um, could you expand on that a little bit?
Uh, well, I think it takes the pejorative connotations of poorest and turns it into defense by lullaby.
Hmm. Oh, well. Oh, great. I love that idea.
Stephen
Oh,
Rettiner
Stephen Rettiner?
Oh,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
would.
oh, oh, I didn't see your hand. Okay.
I actually put it down, but my simple comment was, uh, not only is this the way that a newspaper article might refer to the country, I was thinking about all the ways that rich countries or privileged countries view uh, poor neighbors. And though this poem was written before, the phrase that came to my mind was all those shithole countries.
Yeah.
When a certain leader can instantly turn whole nations of people into an object, into a thing. And
Yeah.
it seems like this poem is intended to do the exact opposite, to completely humanize a place so that we can't easily sweep it aside.
Right. When?
This is an extension of Stephen's comment. Uh, the first line, that the line, "You should become a beacon." How often has the United States been referred to as a beacon, the city
Mm.
on the hill, etc.?
Hmm.
So that in fact, what I felt was that the poorest country is us, as compared to the humanity of that's presented in all of the other images in the poem. That there's something in each of those images that we lack because of measuring things in terms of power and wealth.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Hey Lloyd, this is Gerard.
Oh, Gerard. Yes, hi.
Hi.
So glad to see you.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me and thank you for sharing um your reading of this poem and for everyone's input. I just wanted to say I'm not a poet, I'm not a writer, but my personal interpretation or the thing that struck out to me about this poem, not really speaking to Danielle about it, but just kind of understanding our history, was that she actually flipped the notion of wealth, where the richness is coming from the images of the bougainvillea, the hills, the culture, and that's a measure of wealth versus the monetary amount that's measured
Yeah.
by US or European Western standards. So that's just my interpretation of it.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree with you. And it's what's so moving about the poem. And it's one of the things, I mean, I love the way she's sort of setting us up in that title for, oh, the poorest country in the world. And then as you read the poem, the kind of all of this richness of landscape and flowers and who the people are, uh, really just so completely comes through. And yeah, I mean, I think we are being set up in that title, and oh, the poorest country in the world, and then oh poorest country, that is not your name. Um, so yeah, I thank you, and you don't have to be a poet uh to understand and read and feel the poem, any poem. Um, any other thoughts about the opening of the poem? Anna, yes, hi.
Hi, I'm just realizing, listening, especially to what Gerard said, that she never actually gives the name of the country. she says of a poorest country and she denies it and
Right.
renames it a beacon and a flame and a
Right.
light, but she never says Haiti. Um, I think that's really interesting because it's another way of rejecting the sort of pejorative notions and judgment of the country and
Or
instead just makes us look at it.
yeah, or the labeling, the
Mhm.
labeling, the pigeonholing. Um, yeah, yeah, that you're very right to point that out. It's the poem becomes that country, not the name, not the uh n- not the name. Um um that is not your name. You should be called Beacon. You should. And I really love these line breaks. I think they're just incredibly skillful and just keep us alert at every moment. You should be called Beacon. You should be called Flame. What about Beacon and Flame? Denise, you're still muted.
They
Oh,
both pertain to lighthouses,
r-
signals that
yes.
lead one.
Lloyd, and we have Hume and Jennifer also want to add to Denise.
Oh, oh, okay. Please. Oh,
Yeah, well,
yeah.
I was really responding to your initial question, but it does relate to this question about beacon and flame. There are a couple of internal rhymes just in the first few lines here. Name and flame and sort of bougainvillea and villa.
Yeah.
Um, I did pick up on that. So um, uh, beacon and flame calls to mind the Statue of Liberty. But
Hmm.
maybe, maybe
Hmm.
that's me.
Hmm. That's okay. You're allowed. Uh, yeah. I, 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 I wonder. Yeah. Can you say a little bit? Someone say a little bit more about Beacon. Oh, I'm sorry, Jennifer. You had your hand up.
I just wanted to note that flame is in both of the poems that you had us read. In the other poem, it's your human self, keep it alive, a type of flame. And it seems to me that's the function in both poems. And that this poem is the poem of light and the flame, and it comes from the human self, the light of morning, the grandfather at the gate with the flashlight, whereas the other poem uh, is working against the dark, keep your door shut
Right.
against the creeping night. So the poem embodies an idea that um, this flame of the self, of the human self, uh, uh, I, to me, it feels like a very Quaker idea.
Hmm. Hmm.
Everybody has their own flame. Your obligation is to nurture it and to bring it back to the whole. But that's what I see in the beacon and in the flame here.
Right. Mary, thank you.
Yeah, just something kind of general and stepping back for a sec, but getting back
Mhm.
to beacon and flame. Just the obvious thing about the use of personification and second person and the
Hmm.
way that the reader is being addressed. And I think it's one of those things we don't expect from the title of the poem is that the poem is going to be speaking to us, to you, and
Hmm.
that there's something kind of beautifully disorienting about it.
Hmm.
And particularly when we hit beacon and flame and the you should, the kind of confidence of these statements, but beacon and flame are kind of exhilarating and unexpected,
Hmm.
particularly when we're being addressed in the way that the second person does.
Hmm.
I just love it.
Right. Thank you. Stephen, you had your hand up a minute
Oh,
ago.
I was just 1 second. I was just going to add that flame and fire is something that's in many of Danielle's poems. And before her memorial, I was browsing around online and I found this one line that came from her editor at Beacon Press. She was memorializing Danielle, and among the things she said was that she sent Danielle the typical author's questionnaire, and she had to fill it out. And one of the questions was, "How would you like to be addressed by Beacon staff?" And Danielle's answer was, quote, "She who writes with fire in her pen and fierceness in her heart in every third instance, but otherwise, Danielle." But the fact that she wanted to identify herself as she who writes with fire in her pen and
Yeah.
fierceness in her heart. And I think the fire and flame image is something that she uses like the eternal light or the eternal life force, um, which, by the way, can even produce that useful item of charcoal in the poems. So it's a necessary thing for
Hmm.
the larger spirit, but also for the small everyday tasks that we need to get by.
Yeah. I love that image of the Statue of Liberty. And but I let me just add my own little twist on that. And that beacon is something, I mean, we know what a beacon is. But flame is more intense. It's something, I mean, there may be flames in a beacon that is creating the beacon, but flame, something more thrilling about that it's an increment in intensity. It's not just two versions of the same thing, but that there's something to me, there's something becoming more intense, becoming more vibrant, becoming more dangerous. Um, anyway, almond and bougainvillea, garden and green mountain, villa and hut. What do you make about that list of of elements? Susan, yeah.
I was quite struck by a beacon going to a flame, and for me, a beacon is something you see in the distance. It's often a white light, and flame has got the red and the colors in it. And so the
Mm.
almond flowers, which are white, and the bougainvillea, which are so intensely red, caught me.
Yeah.
And then the girl with red ribbons picked that up for
Oh, yeah.
me, and charmed by the light of morning. And then the striking turn to the charcoal cellar in black, encircled by dead trees. And I couldn't I found it worked both ways, that she could be charmed by the light of morning and also charmed by the charcoal cellar and black skirt
Mm.
encircled by dead trees, or that those could work separately. And anyway, I was very struck by that. And then the image of the grandfather, the keeper of history, with the flashlight, which is that piercing white white light at the end with all in sight is made an enormous impression on me.
Yeah.
Tragic at the same time, prophetic in some way, comforting in some way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lloyd,
Yeah.
Gina also was wanted to add, and I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you, Susan.
Okay. Oh, I'm hearing some sort of noise in the background. If
Gone.
it's okay. Good. Good. Gina, go ahead.
Yes, I appreciate Beacon and Flame as intense images and images of immense power. And
Mm-hmm.
to me, they are those things, and they are images that indicate some things. But I find it to be a very subtle rendering and way to talk about, and not at all strident way to
Mm-hmm.
sort of represent, right, which we're
Mm-hmm.
doing in poetry, a very powerful historical reality, right? And
Mm-hmm.
she's sort of not, I love the way in this poem that she's rewriting a narrative, but rewriting the narrative with, in fact, immense tenderness. So
Mm-hmm.
she's suggesting the beacon, she's suggesting the flame. The beacon to me is inevitably Haiti's role as a sort of beacon of liberty,
Mm-hmm.
right? The revolution that invited all of the other American revolutions, except for that in the US, and that aided and abetted those revolutions, sending resources and everything. And that was a beacon for liberty for for enslaved people throughout
Mm-hmm.
the Americas, and
Mm-hmm.
that played its role as beacon, right? I mean, it's
Right.
a subtle beacon in a multiplicity of ways, right? We know that
Right.
maybe 40%, 20 something, upwards of 20% of freed Blacks in the North went to Haiti in the 19th century, freed Blacks in the United States. So it was
Mm-hmm.
beacon for so many things. So it's a way of hinting at and revealing slowly, but starting with the most potent language, a kind of civility, right?
Mm-hmm.
And richness that unfolds as the poem unfolds
Yeah.
through the bougainvillea, which are of widely varying kinds in Haiti, right? You see peach, you see beige, you see every conceivable color. There's immense richness. There are varying kinds of almonds. It's,
Mm.
it's a cultural trip, the almond.
Yeah.
And then culminating the kind of tenderness of the grandfather, guarding the family.
Yeah.
And the stability of that order. Instead of just being poor, we have this richness, we have this stability, we have this rhythm, and we have this beauty, and we have this historical position, right? We hear, right?
But I'm also, thank you. Yes, I agree with you. And yet I also want to add that we're being especially in that increment from beacon to flame, we're being set up for something that that in a way what happens next is a surprise. We're getting to flame, and flame leads into almond and bougainvillea, garden and green mountain. That's something flame is kind of dangerous. And yet what we get, what that beacon and flame consist of is something very pastoral and beautiful and not threatening. Almond and bougainvillea, garden and green mountain, villa and hut. Well, villa and hut is is a little more politically complicated. Um, I mean,
Mhm.
isn't it? Don't you think?
I
Yeah.
think flame is also right. The flame of an enduring idea, rhetorically, of an enduring principle, a
Sure.
value. I mean,
Sure. Sure. No. I think flame is obviously it's very powerfully suggestive of lots of possibilities. I just think, to me, for flame to lead to almond and bougainvillea and garden is is a surprise, and that it's taking me on a trip. It's not just it's not just announcing a concept, but it's guiding me through something that has more surprises in it than than I I was expecting. And I love that quality in in this poem. And then it gets to girl with red ribbons in her hair and books under arm, charmed by the light of morning. But girl with red ribbons in her hair. Why does that get to me so deeply, so emotionally, so richly emotional? Um, I don't know. What do you, oh, Ruth, yeah, hi.
Well, to me, a girl with red ribbons in her hair is a girl who's well cared for by a loving family, somebody who takes the time to help her get ready for school and put in her hair.
Any guesses about who that might be? Oh, Denise, yeah.
Thank you. I think there's a bit of self-portrait in there, but to go back to Flame to Bougainvillea has
Yes.
a perfect logic for me because Bougainvillea in the tropics grows up walls, over roofs, and its colors are flame-like red and
Yeah.
magenta and
Hmm.
purple and orange. So it really looks ablaze. And then to be paired with almond. Almond is a cultivated tree, but the bougainvillea will grow wild. And then that sets up with garden and mountain. So the garden is cultivated, but the mountains are nature, they're wild. So I think it shows that both in its culture and in its natural state, Haiti is an exquisite place.
Yeah.
And
Bill, yeah.
Oh, well, actually,
Yeah. Hello?
good
Oh,
timing, Lloyd, because I was what I wanted to say. Hi, am I not audible?
you are now.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I was just saying that the thought which occurs to me emerges directly out of what Denise says in the
oh, Bill, you've broken up a little bit.
and actually realized that the almond. Maybe my internet connection is bad. Perhaps I should give way to somebody else who can speak without.
Now, we hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking. I hadn't actually realized that almond bougainvillea activates a
Oh,
Oh no. Oh,
yeah.
Bill, we're gonna
Bill,
come back to that thought.
cultivated wild.
yeah. I'm sorry you got cut off at activated. Um, um,
Certainly, that's present then in
yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. We're losing you now. Um,
Not a problem.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, sorry, Anna. We'll get back to you. See if your connection is working better in a little while.
I was
that's
interested to hear what he was going to say.
I know, me too.
um, I just, I absolutely saw Danielle as the girl with the ribbons in her hair. And as Gina was talking about the sort of historical importance of that flame and beacon, I started to think about flame as, that was the source of humanity, right? Prometheus brought flame
Yeah.
to the world, and that was how we were able to become ourselves, and to grow food and to
Mhm.
have flowers and a garden and then create shelter and then create this girl. So it seems like it's part of sort of a very important political statement about the importance of this place, but it's also part of this larger mythology of what it means to be human,
Mhm.
and how flame, how flame is the origin of that
Yeah.
humanity.
Yeah. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, it's just been a rich conversation. So many different things that echo for me. And I think, for me, starting with that beacon and flame, which is so many different connotations, both the power and strength, as Gene was referring to. And um, I think we have the lightness that are calling people, the beauty, the tenderness. And to me, the red ribbons and the hair, the book under arm, the safety of that place that has incredible educational institutions and
Mhm.
a big focus on education and the value of that. The lightness too, with even the charcoal sellers are again about selling things that are meant to, like charcoal briquettes,
Right.
to help flame stoves
Same.
and heat the house and other things. There's the life and death within that too, but there's lightness there, and then in end with the grandfather at the gate is also the spirituality that image of the Caribbean and West African Papa Legba, maybe some others can say more about, but
Hmm.
who is the gatekeeper of life and death, um, letting in prayers, um, speaking for uh, uh, life and death issues, and looking over all and protecting kind of all and guiding as a central God. So all that lightness and I guess the richness, the tenderness of the colors and the small moments of life and the values there, and also the richness of spirituality, all that have called people in and welcomed them in to a richer life, I guess.
Yeah. But that that she as a child, or this image of a child that I think we can't help thinking must be Danielle, that she is at the center of it, and that she is the girl with red ribbons and books, and she's the one who is going to write this poem. That she will be this is her origin story also. And I find that, at least the way I read the poem, I find that just infinitely touching, and that she is right there at the center of it. She is a child. Gerard.
Yeah, thanks, Lloyd, and thanks for everyone's interpretation and reaction to this. My personal feeling is that this is not as self-referential
Ah,
as one may think, but what I see is the power of her um, visual representation against the pre-described um, boxes, if you will, that Haitian girls are put in.
Hmm.
In Haiti, to be a professional, one must be I'm sorry, an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer,
Hmm.
and mostly those are relegated to boys, young
Oh, yeah.
boys.
Hmm.
The connection I see with the bougainvillea and the red ribbons is that bougainvillea is wild and it can grow anywhere, even out of the cracks of the walls, and you'll see them
Hmm.
flourishing. And just the fact that they're tenacious and they flourish
Hmm.
connects to me the girl with the red ribbons in her hair who has been so cared for tenderly, the coif of the ribbons and the braids and the explosion of the color that connects between the bougainvillea and that, then that connects to the fact that this young girl is going to be educated. She's got the books. There's this kind of power that she provides through the tenderness of the words. That's just my own
Yeah.
reaction to that.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. Was there another hand? Oh, Nick, yeah.
Yeah, yes, I'd like to talk about this language which startled me, beginning charcoal cellar. Charcoal, of course, is made by flame, by burning dry wood. And so that leap from flames we've been talking about to black charcoal and the cellar in a black skirt, not red ribbons in her hair, and
Mm-hmm.
not bougainvillea colors, a black skirt
Mm-hmm.
encircled by dead trees. Again, not by these brilliant
Right.
bougainvillea, which do grow wildly everywhere. And that seemed to me ominous.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know quite what to make of it, but it did seem to be a very important part of the poem.
Mm-hmm.
And back to the making charcoal, it is made by burning wood with insufficient oxygen, and that produces
Hmm.
carbon monoxide, which is deadly. So again, that ties
Hmm.
in to the black and so forth.
Yeah.
Gina, yeah.
I wanted to add what, not an interpretive thing, but the almond may also, I think, is most likely referring to not a cultivated almond, but the zaman, right, in Haiti, which is a wild almond fruit.
Hmm.
Yeah. The sea almond that
Hmm.
is very common and grows everywhere and is a source of
Hmm.
incredible delight. Yeah. And I also was very much taken by Gerard's, what he noted. I couldn't
Yeah.
help but think that, that singular little girl is a standing for many other such little girls
Sure.
in that
Oh,
social
sure.
position, including myself, or my
Yeah.
sister, because
Yeah.
this is, this was a manner of style also, the red ribbons in the hair for the time. But anyway.
Great.
And
Yeah. No, that I I I think that's really important. I think that's really important. To Anna Feingold.
Yes, thank you so much. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you, but
Yes, I'm so sorry. My video is not working. It just keeps
oh,
freezing, so I'm just keeping it off. I
okay.
apologize for that. It's just on the fritz. I just wanted to go back to the charcoal cellar. I really
Oh,
appreciated kind
oh,
of
good.
bringing that into the conversation. And one way that that kind of made sense to me, um, this country, it's a beacon, it's a flame, it's the bougainvillea that can survive and thrive even in the cracks in the walls. It's this little girl with the ribbons in her hair that's becoming educated. But one way that the charcoal cellar kind of fits in for me is the reference later in the poem to the merchant woman.
Hmm.
And to
Hmm.
me, what I took from that is even when what's they're surrounded by is just the dead trees that are presumably burned. There's
Mm.
a way to work with that. There's a way to use
Mm.
that as a source of being able to survive and even thrive. And that kind of helped that image of the charcoal cellar with the black skirt, not the red ribbons, but the black skirt, that kind of helped situate it and integrate it for me.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, and I also think that as in the charcoal cellar is as important a part of the country as the little girl with red ribbons. And I think the there's something very I don't know what the word is. I almost want to say cagey about the order that these items come in. It's not just leading up to the girl with red ribbons and the books under her arm. She's she's part of the picture that also, I mean, there's the hope, there's the idea, if you think of her as possibly the author, that there is this future for her that's different from the future for the charcoal seller in black skirt, but that the charcoal seller is is also very important and very an important part of the culture that may not be you know it's not Harvard, but it's it's integral to the variety and community of a culture, of a whole culture. And that it's not just that one thing is better than the next. It's that they're all integral to this world, this quote unquote poorest country that has such a kind of cultural richness that's full of surprises, and that we don't get those surprises in the order that we might expect to get them. So that there's something really just canny about the way this whole poem is structured. Um, I don't know, Martha. I'm dying to. I need you probably know this poem better than almost anyone here, except maybe Tom. Uh, but I would love to hear your take on. Forgive me for calling on you, but I'm dying to know what you think. You're muted.
I told you I was going to shut up and listen, but here I am.
I know, but I don't want you to.
Okay. I really liked what Gerard said about the girl with red ribbons. It's, after all, if you know Danielle's story, she would be more likely to be walking around Boston with books under her arm than Haiti, where she left when she was 5, right, Gerard?
Right.
I also wanted to say that I just keep finding echoes. Beacon and Flame, Almond and Bougainvillea, people have talked about things, but there's also a color thing there. There's the list of the almond and the flame of the bougainvillea, and then the light of morning, and then the darkness. And the charcoal cellar is also in a woman.
Yes.
Do you want me to say something about the other version of this poem and my take?
Well, maybe yes, but maybe a little bit later.
Okay, all right.
and I would love to hear you talk about that. But uh, let's work through this, um, and then get back to that issue. Sure. Um, uh, and I love the way she comes back to you, country, and this reminder that she is talking to the country. She's talking to that country. She's addressing it. You, country, are merchant woman and eager clerk, and merchant woman and eager clerk. I love the adjective there. Um, and then uh, I just Susan had mentioned earlier, and some of you have also mentioned. I mean, there's just this extraordinary ending, and Tom um, explaining that figure of the grandfather at the gate. What what makes that such an extraordinary place to lead the poem to? Uh, I mean, that just seems to me the poem is leading us along a kind of circuitous path, kind of backwards and forwards and through light, through dark, and then just what seems to me this absolutely extraordinary image that comes at the end that is where everything else is leading, is going to. And what oh um Jennifer, can you I can't read the print of the chat comment. So
I just wanted to say quickly that to go back to the Statue of Liberty comparisons people made at the first, um, one way to respond to the image of the grandfather at the gate with the flashlight is to feel it as a revising of the Statue of Liberty, not give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, but here we'll take the terms of that poem and its understanding of what's poor or not, and replace it with a very different kind of welcoming a vision at the gate, at the crossroads with the flashlight, with all in sight.
all in sight. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for um any other comments about the ending and where this is all going. I that just to me it's the it's just this amazing progression in this poem and the kind of winding progression. It's not A, B, C, D. Oh, oh, Bonnie, you didn't have your hand up, did you? No. Okay.
Tom does.
Oh, Tom, yes, please.
Yeah, there's something, again, speaking to the country as this grandfather who is the spiritual figure, looking at who's, what prayers get passed over, who passes over into the better world, who lives and dies, and kind of looking at a judgment, I guess, of the world and the people who refer to this country in the ways that they have, and the ways that the U.S. and France and all these countries have done so much damage and contributed to challenges in Haiti for so many generations. So there's something about this, looking, being the judge, and seeing all that that history and the ways that these terms are thrown around without that depth of understanding. And anyway, that's what.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah. Anna, yeah.
The thing I noticed towards the second half of the poem is how the sound just really kind of heats up. She goes for light of morning, charcoal cellar and black skirt, encircled by dead trees, you country. There's just so much internal rhyme. The merchant woman and eager clerk, and then the alliteration of grandfather at the gate with the flashlight with all in sight. So like light, sight. And she's using all these internal rhymes to weave those hard it rhymes together. And yeah, like maybe there's a little bit of Dylan Thomas in there, like rage, rage against the people who call you the poorest country in the hemisphere. Rage against this pointing and this devaluation and this not looking, because the poem ends, of course, with sight, with all of the things that should be seen.
Yes. Yeah. I'm glad you brought up the sounds of the poem because they're so rich and playful in many ways. I mean, the light black skirt, clerk, sight, um, uh, what about oh, Bonnie, your hand is up this time.
I'm interested in the paradox of the flashlight that sees things in a limited disk of light at the same time with all in sight. And to me, that resonates with the way that she has chosen these particular things, the girl, the charcoal seller, the clerk, to see them in a very particular way. And yet within each of them, all is in sight. So
yeah,
the use of the flashlight is a really interesting choice to me.
Yeah.
It's not a torch. It's not
right.
It's not the morning light. It's a very specific, targeted way to view things.
Yeah. 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 No, thank you. Yeah. What do you make of the word crossroads? That seems a very important moment in the poem to me. And anyone?
You've got to make a decision.
I'm so,
you have to make a decision.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not clear what your choices are on one level. On the other, are you going to be with the poorest country in the world or with its contrast?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the grandfather knows the direction.
Mm-hmm. Catherine?
But in an odd way, the beacon should have the bigger light. Its light should go further, but it's the flashlight that has all in sight.
This little light of mine, I'm going to make it shine.
But that's a very singular thing. And in theory, the Statue of Liberty and its beacon is supposed to be welcoming all, but it's the flashlight who catches all.
Mm-hmm.
And that it seems to me a little, and it's crisscrossed with the earlier part goes to white and living, and this later part goes to black, and it's a grandfather and it's crossroads as opposed to flowers and a young girl. So it seems to me that they're very two very separate uses of the vertical image of the light, the light, the beacon and the girl and the grandfather, and let's say the flashlight. It just seems
Thank you.
visually different.
Jonathan, yeah, thank you, Catherine.
Hi, yes, my immediate reaction to the word crossroad is like how it is referred to in jazz as the you meet the devil at the crossroads, and the grandfather's out there with a flashlight. He's wary. He's looking for something. He's not signaling attention to himself. This is something. It's a very dark image to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, Denise. Yeah.
It was a similar vein, but a little earlier in musical history. Blues songs frequently talk about crossroads, and it's with the same meaning, I think. And I was reminded of that Robert Johnson song that starts, "I went down to the crossroads, fell down on my knees." It was later covered by some rock group, Green maybe. Anyway,
Eric Clapton.
Okay. Yeah, he was part of Cream. And yeah, it does have the connotation of meeting the devil potentially, but I think it's not just that the devil is on one branch of the road. And thinking about the second poem that we're taking up, in this case, it looks like the devil is at the crossroads. Anyway, those are just some scatter.
Right. But yeah, we also sort of did mention the word gate, the grandfather at the gate at the crossroads. So the gate is the crossroads, and to me, the poem takes on this very large. I mean, I wasn't aware of the traditional figure that Tom was talking about before, but even without that awareness, what comes at the end is a figure at a gate, which is a crossroad with a flashlight that sees everything with all in sight. And just from a maybe inadequate, but the poetic understanding of what's at stake in those images is very palpable in this poem and where this poem is going. And that seems just extraordinarily powerful to me. Susan, you mentioned you really were talking about this earlier when you were talking about the poem, and I just completely agreed with your sense of where this poem was leading, and to me, it's leading to some very large. It's a relatively small poem. It's not a long poem, but it's so convincing, and it's so full of these images, going back to the your name and beacon and flame and the flowers and the girl with the red ribbons and the charcoal cellar, and then the merchant woman and the eager clerk, and finally the grandfather figure who is just such a seems to me such a monumental, almost mythological figure. Catherine, yeah.
And the grandfather is at two kinds of gates compared to the little girl. One is age, and the other is the gate can close. That's the thing. And the fact that it goes on to the gate and the crossroads implies that he's going to keep going. But there's the not danger, but the possibility that it's not worth keeping going. You might not want to. That's crossroads. You can stay where you are when the gate slams, and yet the flashlight has all in sight, and maybe having all in sight recognizes that it's not great, but all of what you see. It might, the future isn't necessarily bright and shiny.
Yeah. Tom. Yeah, thanks, Catherine.
Yeah, I was just going to add, sort of related to things I was saying earlier, but the flashlight, to me, this is this grandfather, Papa Legba, at the gate between the living and the ancestor world, and decides who can pass. And flashlight, unlike a beacon that calls to people, flashlight zooms in and looks at individuals and can sort of see into you. And to me, it sort of pins you and can see into your soul and decide whether you are worthy enough to pass over to live a happy life with the ancestors. And I think in the light of also this being written in response to the 2010 earthquake, it's also in the judgments and the derogatory way that Haiti is being referred to. It's also, making, this is a judgment about how people in the world will respond, and will they reach out and help, and are they helping enough? And those who aren't, maybe don't get to pass over, and we see, into your soul, and you're not going to be able to pass over and be with the ancestors. I don't know. That's some thoughts.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you. Uh, uh, I, I would just add the one thing about the flashlight is also a kind of is sort of giving a sense of direction. That the flashlight is looking ahead past the crossroads into, into what's in store for you, what's coming next, and what you can see ahead of you. Anna, yeah, yes.
I love what you just said, and I was going to comment on it. I do think Gina maybe had their hand up, so I just wanted to not hop ahead.
I just wanted to build on what both Lloyd and Tom were saying about the grandfather figure of the Gates being in communication, in a sense, right? In communication with those on not only sort of on both sides of life and death, but in a sense with all of those present, yes?
Sure.
And being able to discern, which does parallel Papa Legba's role. And Legba communicates with all. And interestingly, and this is a further expansion, Legba speaks all languages and communicates with all people. So this is even we take it then to the level of the universal, don't we?
Yeah. Oh, Anna, did you want to?
Sure. I just wanted to say very briefly, I loved what Catherine said about comparing the kind of Statue of Liberty style beacon with the grandfather with the flashlight. And between the two, it's the grandfather with the flashlight that has all in sight. Another thing I really take from it is that the grandfather with a flashlight image to me, it feels like the grandfather's going to walk with you. It feels like the grandfather's going to accompany you and show you the way. And between a like big standing up in public, we're so great, come to us kind of beacon, and a grandfather with a flashlight who's going to walk with me, like that's the guidance that I want. That's the support that I want. That's the beacon that I want to go to.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Martha, I say a little bit about Danielle's revision. We don't have a copy of the revised version of the poem, but tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, there are three changes. Poem is gone from the title, so it becomes For the Poorest Country in the World. The first line is gone, and then once the first line is gone, it gets relineated so it intersects with a single line at the bottom.
Right.
The first two changes seem to me to make it a tougher poem and a larger poem. I could cite other changes, a couple of other changes of titles that do the same thing. Stephen Rettiner spoke about how the language of the title is the language of headlines. I think that's right. And one of the things I love about the poem in either version is the tension between that newspapery language and the lyricism of the poem.
Yeah.
Get rid of poem in the title, you make that tension tighter, or that the contrast sharper, I think. And I really quite like that. And then in the first line, the refusal to repeat, "O Poorest Country." We're losing something here, that tenderness that Denise spoke of earlier. But what we're gaining is a toughness. For the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, you should be called Beacon. And this seems to me to reflect a kind of development. I'm really going out on a limb here, but a kind of movement in Danielle's own poetry, that the more she wrote, the larger her voice became, the more she had to speak for and to. And even though she could still write exquisitely lyrical poems, personal poems, that voice, that it's a tougher voice. And I greatly respect that. I can understand your love of the tender. I also think taking poem out, I'm picking up again on what Gerard said about the girl not necessarily being the poet. The poet is more removed, is more witness, is more larger spokesperson. So that's my commentary.
Yeah, no, thanks. Thanks very much. It was very, very efficient summary of the changes that Danielle made. Just personally, of course, it, the child isn't necessarily her, and it's, if we know the biography, and how old she was at the time. And yet you read the poem and you can't help think that in some way that girl, the little girl with the ribbons in her hair, has to be some sort of earlier version of herself. I think I just feel that reading the poem. And it doesn't have to be autobiographical, but it's some image of that little girl with the books and the ribbons is probably going to become a poet or a writer or a teacher or something that Danielle herself became. So I can't not think of it as Danielle, just reading it as a poem. I don't want to read it as an autobiography. I just want to read it as a poem. And I agree with you that the changes uh, make the poem tougher, make the voice in the poem tougher. Uh, you know, when Robert Lowell was interviewed about two versions of a long poem of his, and that he ultimately couldn't decide between which version he liked better. And his final answer was, well, they both exist. Um, so I'm glad this version exists online because I like it. I love it. And it's the version that let me into the poem for the first time. So I have a sentimental attachment to it. But I'm also very interested I'm interested in revision, and I'm fascinated by what Danielle decided to change at, some years later, when she included it in a book. Um, um, Anyway, I'm sorry. If anyone's interested in seeing the later version, I just write to me and I'll send you the later version. Martha?
Uh, Tom just put the version in the chat.
Oh, great. Oh, thank you.
The lines look funny, but you can.
Yeah. I was going to say, with the chat, it messed up the line breaks and all that, but it is, terset's there. And my comment in the end screwed up the last line. So it got jumbled a bit, but hopefully.
What was your comment at the end? Because I can't read the chat.
I'm sorry. Sorry, chat loses the line breaks, but this is the 2016 revision.
Okay.
And I was just going to say, I agree with your point about Lloyd, about the girl with red ribbons, and suggestive, certainly, of not only her and her history and ways she became an artist, but a child who's charmed by the light of morning certainly sounds like someone who is seeing the world as an artist.
Right.
And in Haiti, art is central to life, and just art everywhere and artists everywhere. And so, that seems representative of not only her but others.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like your version, your point about Lowell's poem, Danielle's, book version 2016. But on her website, she has a link to the Academy of American Poets version of this poem. Right? It's one of the first poems listed on her website that I now maintain. And so, clearly she understood that both of those existed.
Oh, I'm very glad to hear that. Yeah. Anyway, we have a few minutes left, and talk about tougher poems. Um, uh, we've, as I said, we only have a few minutes left, and we can't occupy Marita's time. Thank you, Marita, as always. But what was your response to the instructions in times of emergency? Turn the radio low, but listen. Oh, you must have Mary.
Well, just a kind of dumb observation, but one of the things that really struck me was, the poem is phenomenal, of course, and every couplet takes us to a new place. But I really love the way the human self, she tells us keep both. There isn't a prioritizing of the human self over the lizard self. And I just found that kind of really refreshing, and that she's just done it so exquisitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of wisdom in that.
Yeah. I love these the turns that Yehudi? Oh, please, yeah.
If you're living in a dictatorship and you still want to get the news, you would turn the radio down and listen carefully.
Right, right, right. Turn the radio low, but and the word turn has such resonance in the poem. Turn the radio low, but listen. Do not turn, though some turn against a neighbor. And we know that history, but it's just as a poem, it's really exciting to see how this simple language and this simple, these two lines, again, lots of two couplets, two line stanzas, and a single line at the end of the poem. Really ominous single line. But the turns that the poem takes, um, just it just seemed dazzling to me, although dazzling isn't exactly the right word for the effect that this poem has because it's so dark. But turn the radio low. Do not turn, though some turn against a neighbor. Um, and then this really, I don't know, I find this your human self, keep it alive. And it's a political message, but it's an awfully good line in a poem, for a poem. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, CD. Hi.
Hi. I have a question.
Yes.
And the question is, and I've just been poring over this line and reading the poem over and over. Do not look a beached and bloated body in its face. And I have had that experience of seeing that, and I just want to know what people think about why this instruction is in times of emergency is there. So it's a question.
Okay. Any answers?
They're there.
Yeah. Yeah, Hume. And Catherine, I'll get right back to
Just don't let revulsion overcome you. Don't let it, you have to put it aside.
Don't confront it. Don't look it in the face.
Well, if you look it in the face, you risk being overcome by it.
I see.
That's what I read, that's how I interpret it.
Understand.
Catherine and Denise, I think.
Yeah, Catherine.
I'm not the poet among us, but with the repetition of night and the repetition of don't you hear do not go into that dark night or whatever the line is.
Good night.
Good night. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's echoing it.
Mm-hmm.
Me. Because of the do not and the do not and the night and the night.
Yeah. Good reference. Anna?
I think Denise had her hand up before me.
Oh, okay. We only have a couple of minutes left, but Denise? Yeah.
It's very quick. It's just don't look in the face. Reminds me of the Gorgon Medusa.
Right. Yeah.
And it was interesting to me because she says don't look the beached and bloated body in the face, but she also says witness the executions.
Yeah. Right. Right. I don't know, Tom or Gerard, do you have anything to add? Last words?
Well, I was just going to say, I think this echoes before Gerard said, this echoes not only that time, but other times. I have friends who were in this, who are Ethiopian and lived in the 70s, and again, dead bodies on the street. And if you looked and if you cried and you pleaded, you would be taken and taken away and killed. So you can't look, you can't show those emotions because you will, you must have cared about them, so you wanted them.
Right.
Yeah, thanks. Just quickly, the first few lines to me strike me the most of this poem because it really instructs one to avoid the noise, because there's so much noise that comes out of the echo chamber, and really focusing on what's important, what's critical out of the information that you hear. And that to me is what's really striking.
Thank you. I have the program for the memorial reading, and just in case those of you, there might be a few of you who didn't know Danielle or how beautiful she was. There's a really lovely picture on that program. There's a very lovely picture on the back of the program. And
would you send those to us?
I can try.
Yeah.
I'm not very adept at these technical things, but
maybe if you send the pictures to Marita, she knows how to send it to us.
Yeah.
Thanks, Marita. I know. I'm sorry.
The question is sending the pictures to anyone. And
Tom may be able to help you with that, Lloyd. Sorry to volunteer you, Tom, but
there's also a recording of that online on YouTube through the Boston City Office of Arts and Culture. People did want to view that. So it was a live stream that day, last Sunday, and it's viewable. So it's got some editing issues in it at the beginning.
Also, Tom and I did a lot of proofreading of the program, and I have a single page with the front and the back of the program that I could send to everybody.
Okay, well,
or to you,
send it to Marita, and she could send it to everyone. Is that okay?
Absolutely. And I can share. I was going to send it. I'll send it with the link to the video, and I'll include the updated revised poem as well to the first one.
Thanks so much. Thank you for everything, as always. Thank you, Tom and Gerard, for participating today, and I'm so glad you were able to not just listen, but participate in the discussion. I'm so grateful to you for doing that. And Martha, thank you for the background. There's another event for Danielle coming up? Do you want to, Martha, just mention it briefly, and then we have to let Marita go?
Yeah, it is a book launch for Danielle's chapbook that was just published by Staircase Books, James Fraser of the Growyer. The book launch will be on June 10th at the Boston Public Library. People will be reading the poems in the book. And it's co-sponsored by the Boston Public Library. And Tom, what time will this be? I don't think I know.
That's at 6 p.m. And I just did put a link to Danielle's website, which I maintain. I haven't put that latest reading on that website, yes, but there's a link actually, if you go to events, to the Boston last Sunday's event for people if they wanted to go that way. So it's DanielleLegros.com. This website.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Marita,
so much.
especially. And be well.
Thank you so much.
Soon.
Take care, everyone.
Lloyd.
Yeah.
Thank you.